Hello. Well, this feels weird. It's a while since I've done one of these. Yeah. Uni, pandemic, nursing student, life. Everything's kind of got on top of me, but I wanted to make a video about something that I have been doing for a while now, and that is knitting. Now, knitting is something I've been able to do since I was about 8, I think when I first learned, which is a good 15 years, which is a scary amount of time. But I would say I properly learned how to do it when I was sort of in my teens. So like my mum taught me how to do a knit stitch, but actually being able to knit and learn various stitches happened when I was in my mid to late teens, because we had YouTube and I could learn how to do stitches. I think it wasn't until I was about 13 or 14 before we even got Wi-Fi, so, and I was not going to sit in front of the family computer with my knitting needle, so it was probably around that age when I was about 14, 15 that I learned how to knit properly. I'm going to put up some pictures on the screen of things I've knitted. Thanks for that editing, Ella. And I want to tell you what I think. My prediction is that knitting is going to become the next lockdown trend. So we had sourdough back in March. Lots of people went into painting and watercolouring. Lots of people took up sport and regular exercise that they weren't doing beforehand, because it was the only reason they had to leave the house. But as we come into this winter lockdown period, I actually think knitting is going to be one of the next things that explodes with what people want to do to keep themselves entertained. To the point where I literally, for this project I'm doing at the moment, turned around to my mum and said, I'm going to go out and buy wool because I reckon in 6 weeks' time that I won't be able to get wool for this project. And I've got a little list of 3 reasons why I think knitting is going to be the next biggest lockdown craze, and 5 reasons why I think if you've never knitted before or you're looking for something to do, it's a good one to have during lockdown. Number 1, which is why I think it's going to take off firstly, is that knitting is going to become really Instagrammable, in my opinion. I reckon because we can't go abroad this winter, at least not very easily, there's going to be a load of lifestyle vloggers going to stay in cottages and sitting in front of fires knitting. I did have the temptation to sit in front of our fake fire in my parents' house and knit for a thumbnail. And at the moment knitting isn't big on Instagram. There's definitely its communities, but I would say when I basically typed in hashtag knitting and went to the top post, they all the top ones had a couple of hundred, maybe 1,000 or 2 likes, but they weren't big and imploding. And I reckon it's going to become big this winter. I was looking basically, and then I was who were the big knitting influencers on Instagram? And a lot of them were ones that already had businesses, but you just looked at them and they were just so that kind of hippie chic Nordic kind of style knitting, which is not even what I'm doing at the moment, but I reckon it's going to go big. The second reason why I think it's going to be a big lockdown success is it's quite accessible. So it's not something you should learn in a classroom. It's not something which has a load of expensive or hard to find equipment. I do think it's quite accessible for most people. And thirdly, I think we're all going to receive a lot of handmade scarves for Christmas. I really do think that it's going to become this thing where we knit each other gifts. Yeah, I feel like that might be something that happens. I'm not saying this is going to happen, this is just my prediction. Those are my 3 reasons why I think knitting is going to implode. That cozy Instagram picture of you knitting in the autumn in front of a fire. It's all cute and cozy. Now, the 5 reasons why I think you should learn how to knit, or you should take it up as a hobby during lockdown, is 1, it is easy to learn. Like I was saying earlier, you don't need to have someone teach you. It helps, but you don't need to have someone teach you. There are hundreds of thousands of knitting videos out there which will teach you how to knit. There's 2 different main styles, so you can learn different styles. It's not you need to have a really natural talent to be able to knit. I mean, it helps to have some hand-eye coordination and just to be able to do bits and pieces creatively. That does help, but it's not a given. And actually, in a lot of ways, knitting, once you've got the basic formula down, is quite mathematical. It can be really affordable. This is my number 2. It can be really affordable. Don't get me wrong, there are knitting kits that I've seen for knit a jumper and it's over £100 or $100 wherever it's being sold, and I'm just that is ridiculous. And depending what wool you buy, knitting can get more and more expensive. So the way you have to kind of see it is what I'm paying to make less expensive or about the same price as what I pay for the finished product, say it was a jumper in a shop? Like, is that what you're doing? But it doesn't have to be expensive. Depending what you want to make, you don't necessarily need a lot of wool or yarn or whatever you're using. So it can be really affordable. You don't need a lot of kit to get started. If all you want to make is a scarf, if that's like a little lockdown project for you, the right size knitting needles, 1 maybe 2 balls of wool depending on how big it is, like if you get really small balls you'll need more, and a pair of scissors, like, and none of those things are very expensive. The more you knit and the more complex stitches you do, it does increase what you might need, but none of it, I've never found any knitting stuff to be stupidly expensive. Right, number 3. This is one of my favourite reasons, one of the reasons why I knit quite a bit. It's mess-free and movable. Knitting, if you get to go away and you get to stay in your little cosy cottage this winter, you can just put it in a bag and take it with you. As long as you, like, put the ball on the end of your needles, then any of your work you're already doing won't come off. Like, you can pick it up, you can move it. I have all mine in a basket at the moment, so I can just pick it up and move it from my bedroom to the living room, to the garden if it wasn't raining. Like, it's easy to pick up and move. And the only real mess you'll ever get with this is cutting the yarn at the end. If you're like, got to an end and you're cutting it off or you're knitting it up, that's it. It's 1 piece of string, 2 knitting needles. You don't produce a lot of mess. It's more mess free in my opinion than something like embroidery where you're changing threads a lot, or even like sewing, because sewing so many little threads and scraps of fabric, it's really like, because you're making the pieces of fabric the right size to begin with, it's really mess free. And in fact, if you've got kids who are maybe a little bit older, it can be a really cool skill to teach them if they're really creative, which doesn't involve them getting out paint every day. It can be a long project. The project I'm working on now, I've estimated will take me at least a month, with a deadline that I've personally given myself for Christmas, when I started it we were in September. But it can take, you can spend a long time on it, and now that's something that for some people really puts them off. So I will say you can do quick projects. I made a teddy bear in a week or less. Like, you can have little quick projects as well. But if you want like a nice long slow back burner project to do after work or just in the evenings, or just so you have like a little project going on through the month where we're not allowed to do much, it can be that. And the 5th reason why I love knitting, and one of the things that I probably do most while I'm knitting, is binge watching. So I know we did most of that, most people did that back in furlough, back in April and March. We're not quite at that point anymore. But if we're not going out in the evenings, the reality is a lot of us have been binge watching throughout lockdown. And for a lot of people, one of the first things they do is they get out their phone. Like, you sit there, you play games, you go through social media. Knitting is another really good way to kind of keep yourself semi-distracted while watching something on Netflix. I love doing it this way. Some people don't, but personally I just feel like having something on in the background or having a podcast on, it just gives you something to do. Like, I don't know, I'm just not someone that can just sit there and watch TV. I have to have something else going on a lot of the time. So yeah, those are my 5 reasons why I think you should take up knitting. I like highly recommend it. I don't know, do you guys want advice on first time knitting? Maybe I'll do that. Maybe in my next video I will give tips on like knitting for the first time or being new to knitting. I feel like that might be a good idea, but yeah. I reckon knitting's going to blow up this autumn and winter time, and like we're going to have so many Instagram photos of people knitting. I might have to get one in. I reckon it's something you should really consider if you are looking for a new creative outlet or something you haven't done in a year and you just want to get back to. Right, this video is already going to be super long and I've got 19 minutes left of video recording time on a 64 gig SIM card, so I need to go and clear out some junk from my SIM card. Thank you very much for watching, and you really will see me soon. I'm not just saying that, I'm going to make an effort this time.